So it all began with, yeah, I've been broken-hearted, blue since the day we parted. ABBA blasting from a moving car, boasting boosted bass and flashing colored lights, bouncing its way down First Avenue one September night in the East Village. I was immediately transfixed, turning to look back on it as cartoonishly shocked and delighted as a worthy kid's animation, grinning from ear to ear under my mask for whatever reason. That's a lie. I know the reason. That song within the last year has become quite the source of serotonin due to the BuzzFeed Unsolved meme, the mental association of watching Ghoulboys content on repeat, singing it with my former roommate while we made cookies, and many a dear new friend through Unsolved Watcher and the Ghoulboys. And there's the picture of the meme. So the fact that this ABBA song reminded me of all that was enough to make me cry in front of a cop. I was glad that I felt safe enough to find my hysteria funny instead of a liability, but either way, I got home safe and sound in time to prepare for my friend Vivian coming over. After much time eating empanadas and talking about everything else under the sun, I told Vivian the funny anecdote of the Mamma Mia car and wound up gushing about the much more important periphery. Eventually, I confided about the likelihood that I'm psychotic, how strange it is to be a Bugara, a believer in ghosts for the uninitiated, and yet simultaneously having hallucinations that I know are hallucinations. How knowing that is both comforting and devastating, since it makes me question the legitimacy of the ghosts I've seen in the past that I know to be true. But what if they weren't? What if there really is no difference between paranormal and pathological? And the idea of that makes, I got typos. And the idea of that wrecks my whole worldview. Ghosts are so important to me, but what if they're just chemicals that could be cured by whatever psych meds I should probably already be on by now? That would break my heart, and yet I am well aware that the most fucked up visions and things seen out the corners of eyes and tactile touches are just my brain being bullshit. I genuinely don't know what would hurt more, to know that my fears are not fixable, or for my childhood friends to disappear. Needless to say, there are multiple reasons that I kin Nell from The Haunting of Hill House. We kept on talking that whole night through, but not just about ghosty stuffs. Eventually, Vivian left to go about their day, and it was still early enough that it preceded my usual nocturnal bedtime, so I could sleep if I wanted to, but I was far too excitable to even dream of sleep. Everything felt big and thrilling still, and that was before I even saw. Saw what? Well, while swiping through Insta stories, I saw Ryan Bergara's, speak of the devil, the OG Bugara himself. The picture was of a city skyline. Wait, that's NYC. Wait, I think I know where this is. Wait, fuck, that's 10 minutes away from me? And then there's a picture of the story. I was already manic before now, but this new development kicked things into overdrive. 10 minutes away? As I charged my phone, I texted all my fandom friends about this new absurd coincidence, asking their input on how insane it would be to surreptitiously take a little 10-minute walk in that direction. I texted my friend Carlisle in the Ghoulboys group chat I'm in, the Ghoul group, TM, and asked my former roommate his thoughts, being one of my most sensible friends. I know this is insane, but is it bad? Like, 1 is no, but you're crazy, and 10 is you're evil and awful and disrespecting the people you admire. Where dost thou think I fall? Even before he could text back, I resolved myself to be brave and stupid and give in to my baser beep-a-deep Annie Wilkes stand from Stan impulses and just go for a little 10-minute Sunday stroll to stretch my legs and get some coffee. What's the harm in that? Luckily, my decision was backed by that same former roommate with whom many a Mamma Mia cookie were made. Quote, 0.5, barely crazy. Barely crazy! Oh, thank God! I donned my ghosty socks for Ryan and my skull headband for Shane, demon talisman for luck, and inconspicuous clothes since merch would be overkill. Laced up my Ghoulboy hunting boots and the playlist, and put on the playlist featuring the Axemen jazz, the Mothman song, and of course every recording of Mamma Mia that I could find, and set out for an adventure. And that's my outfit, which I'm wearing right now also. Okay. Of course, I gave myself ground rules. No Google Maps. I can't say, oh, I was just walking around exploring the neighborhood, if that weren't true. Dawdling while en route and purposely pussyfooting is encouraged, since in this context, directness did seem aggressive. I thought this plan through as I made my way to where the Insta post was said to be. Today was going to be a good day, and I was born ready to follow these clues in hopes of solving the mystery of where the Ghoulboys were investigating. Within a time longer than it would have taken to find had I cheated at my own rules, I discovered a place, but it appeared to be a hotel, and I guess some hotels are party destinations, like the Jane Hotel. Oh, the Jane Hotel is haunted! Maybe they're gonna investigate there. But then they'd stay at the Jane Hotel, as I've done twice, and that place is definitely haunted. Still, they're bougier than I am, and I mean, they're LA folks. They'd probably stay at this hipster hotel with walls plastered with concert posters and intentionally curated street art across from a weed dispensary. LMAO, detective brain. And then, oh, there's pictures of the curated street art and such like, and there's a car going by. Okay. In any case, that's another rule for myself. It's creepy to linger outside a stranger's potential sleep space in hopes of seeing them. So, no dice for Mr. Purple, but there's really no reason not to stop at the place I've wanted them to explore ever since I knew about it, that I just fan-queered to Vivian about hours earlier, the Merchant's house. Only 4 blocks from my apartment, so it's not like I just can't walk past. And besides, I like walking that way anyways, to wave and blow kisses for the ghosties. That's the Merchant's house. I got there and unfortunately no sign of action, but I still took a picture of a hot dog cart parked outside, joking to my friends I was texting my travelogue to that it's a clue, much like my fake out Ghoulboy sightings I'd relayed to my friends. A corgi and a borzoi, Paddington Bear as Ryan Bergar at the coffee shop, and of course every buff person I saw, Ryan! Every lanky person I saw, Shane! And there's a hot dog cart, and there's the Paddington Bear Ryan. Okay. I turned around to take some selfies, only to be stopped by an old man climbing the stairs. That's the selfie. He asked what I was doing there, and I told him earnestly, but not everything, but expressed above all else my love for ghosts. Upon hearing this, he stopped scaling the staircase and, from his parapet, proceeded to infodump so gloriously everything he knew about the Merchant's house, revealing to me that his name was John and he's the museum keeper. He told me of its history, stopped and said, "You do know about the Morris Jamel mansion uptown, don't you?" "No," I told him, eager to hear more. "Well, if ghosts are what you're looking for, I strongly encourage you to check that out. But it's much like our house here, but far grander and quite the spot for ghosts, I assure you." I thanked my new friend John and was delighted in such Dudley-esque relaying of ghostly exposition that I felt compelled to draw stars on my coffee cup, which is what this is. I knew with all my heart that I couldn't possibly pass up this lead. Oh my god, where's the scroll? Okay. Whether or not I see Shane and Ryan, the Morris Jamel was blessed insight, and I was thrilled to see where else this day would take me. I broke my own rules ever so slightly for this new development, seeing which train I needed to explore this new opportunity. I rode the A train all the way up to St. Nicholas Avenue, which was a reference and a good omen in and of itself. St. Nicholas killed the pickle boys. Another clue to back my extremely scientific theory that this could just be the place they're investigating. And then there's St. Nicholas Avenue. After an appropriate amount of wandering aimlessly, I finally found the Morris Jamel, stark and stately atop a steep hill, looking its part as a historical landmark, gated in wrought iron and bedecked in signs for field-tripping school children. There's that. And it did remind me of childhood in a way that I chalked up to many a visit to Fort Snelling, Shakopee River Landing, Gibbs Farm, and the likes. But the more I saw, the more I knew it was something else. But all I knew then was that it was perfect, picturesque for ghost hunting, and every everything John, aka Dudley, had said it would be. As I climbed the slope to meet it, I saw the grandeur of the garden and inconspicuously crept in. Immediately, I followed the paths carved out between beautiful brush grown tall with wildflowers. I turned to see a round white cat curled up, surrounded by flowers, and rambunctious squirrels parkouring over them. It had to be dead so as to not stir whatsoever, so I called it ghosty and stood a while to pay respects. Part of me felt that this cat wasn't actually dead, yet it was still as stone. After more than 10 minutes of seeing no breath, I moved on to see what other ghosts the mansion kept. And there's Ghosty. The house was both elegant and in disrepair, chipping paint and broken white widow's walk. It was perfect. The pinnacle of a haunted mansion may as well have been directed by Flanagan. I texted JS saying that I want to have a birthday here someday. I love it so much. And there's some pictures of it. The garden path led me to a gazebo in the backyard of the manor that I felt especially drawn to. I stood at the opening of an area surely once meant for taking tea in the back garden and looked all around at the headstone model plaque, at the bird bath, at the sundial, at bushes of wildflowers spilling over cobblestones. This whole estate and was filled with such tranquility, such unbridled happiness, and a feeling of peace I haven't thought possible in so long. There are ghosts here, and I felt them, not in a small, wishy-washy, could-be hand-waved away as lack of sleep and psychosis. No, there were ghosts, and I felt them stronger than I've felt ghosts in years. This proved to me the difference that I was so afraid didn't exist between the scary shit I keep seeing nowadays, between the scary shit I keep seeing nowadays, these ghosts that brought me so much joy. These ghosts felt like home. These ghosts made me feel like a kid again. These ghosts brought me more comfort than I thought I could feel. I often weep when I retell this story because I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that in spite of all of my mental illness and all my fears, I haven't grown out of it. And it's not just me calling symptoms supernatural. These ghosts feel different than the visions that I see that make it hard to sleep without lights on. There's a different energy to this place and to these ghosts. And for the first time in so long, I actually felt it again. Since I don't know these ghosts and purposefully avoided researching before arriving at the Morris Jamel, so as to make sure I wouldn't be looking for anything specific, so I'd be less inclined to connect dots that don't belong together or make symbols out of nothing, I joked to my Shaniac friends that maybe some of the joy and comfort I felt was picking up on the real, actual Ghoulboys inside the house. The call is coming from inside the house. But I know that that's more of a stretch than what I know to be true. The Morris Jamel is haunted, and I felt it, which means that I can still feel even after everything. The crazy doesn't numb me to real shit, real ghosts, real vibes, real energy, and I am so grateful and so relieved. I kept exploring the grounds in utter euphoria, seeing the grandeur of the garden appearing as the Victorian fairy fantasy of my wildest dreams. You could hear the rush of the city below, and yet this felt like a world of its own. It felt like home. Oh, and then there's some pictures. John the museum keeper really was Mix Dudley, and that makes me Nell, and I really was. I felt like I belonged there in that haunted house, but unlike every other time I compare myself to Nell, I felt safe above all else. There was no car, no spiral staircase, no locket to speak of. I am safe and I am happy. I rounded the corner to see more of the house itself. I could hear people inside and figured there was a shoot afoot, and I didn't want to photobomb it. I saw a door that led to nowhere and quipped, "What, did Sarah Winchester design this place?" and peeked through the windows, reminded of being 6 years old, held on my cousin's shoulders to see inside the haunted hotel in Wabasso, Minnesota, and for the first time since then, I felt exactly the same. And then that's the door to nowhere and I wanted to stay there forever, and could have if it weren't for the posted park closing times. And yet I noticed people remained inside the manor, closed off from the rabble, myself included. I took a mental note to add to my ongoing list of why this was now the front runner for my theories of where in all of NYC the Ghoulboys were investigating. Before exiting the grounds, I checked back in on Ghosty the cat, and as I observed this time round, I noticed their little chests rise and fall ever so slightly. I kept watch until their jaw unhinged into a big yawn and just as big a stretch. They rolled over and went back to sleep. I realized I should have named this undead cat Schrodinger, but I'd already named them Ghosty. And then they're fucking alive. Look at that. I said goodbye to Ghosty the cat and the rest of the beloved ghosts I'd so easily befriended. Bye, ghosts, I love you, and set off back downtown. As I walked to the train, I noticed my legs tattooed with more mosquito bites than I could count, and purposely scratched them in hopes that they would scar, so I would have permanent proof of this happy, happy day. I made my way back from the glorious and joyous haunted manor, stopping on my way at other haunted locales I knew of, as well as ones the internet suggested, most of whom were duds, especially compared to the sacrosanct spiritual experience I'd just been blessed with. In time, I got back downtown. Phone as dead tired as myself, who'd taken my funny little stretching my legs excuse to the extreme, and had walked far more than 15 miles, according to my fitness pal. I was content to call it there, a beautiful, beautiful day, and a truly wondrous night, until I woke up the following morning to messages from my friend Carlisle, alerting me to the Ghoulboys' current location, this time deduced from Shane's Insta story. "Do you know where this is?" Carlisle yelled through the internet. "Yes!" I yelled back as I got dressed up back in the same full finery as before. And there's the Insta story. Same rules applied, of course, so I strolled leisurely, knowing full well that had I booked it, I could have probably easily crashed their Insta story. But I am good, in spite of being the poster child of bad BPD behavior, the paragon of parasocial for paranormal investigators. I know what my own motives are, and they're not to crash parties I'm not invited to, or audition to be the third Ghoulboy, or seduce them into stealing their AirPods. I would just want to witness the behind the scenes of this show that brings me such joy and comfort, and or get to tell them how much their work means to me. But as I wished on every star that I'd seen since being beknownst to their presence, although I pray that I meet them, I'd rather not see them at all than be accidentally disrespectful, invasive, or unkind. I'm nothing if not self-aware, at least with things like this. So as I walked on, thinking that prayer once again, and running through my alibi of meeting Vivian, since the boys were in the French part of the NYU campus after all, I looked across the street as I made my way down Waverly, only to double take at someone who looked like Ryan fucking booking it, alongside someone who looked like possible TJ Marchbank, the assistant director of BFU. I could hardly believe it, and yet I immediately put myself into possibly Ryan's fancy shoes and decided against running after him to say hi. I know it might be the only chance I get to meet him, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it would be cause for concern to see a stranger chasing you, no matter how pudgy, pink, or harmless they may well be. I kept on stealing glances behind me at the speedy, quick potential Ryan running up the block. I did mental math, and nothing I could think of could prove it wasn't him. And besides, I thought, it's cute that if that was Ryan, spotted as a cryptid, running and blurry and ambiguous about whether or not it's him, but I'm going to believe it was him, unless given reason to think otherwise, a Bugara about my sighting of Ryan Bergara. Wholesome. I made my way to La Maison Francaise, I do not speak French, hoping to catch a glance of cryptid Shane as well. I walked right up to the gate, but got nervous. It's essentially a private alley for photo shoots, a tiny movie set, not a simple city street that people can just walk down. Still, I had my alibi, and luckily, I'm still sometimes mistaken as a college kid. No such luck in seeing Shane, unfortunately, but I took some selfies in part for my own edification and in part to prove to Carlisle that I'd heeded his sage advice. There's the selfies. Still, I wandered on, excited and aimless just in case, but soon the time came to sleep again, and I got the gut feeling that this was the final night of my Ghoulboys adventure, and I intended to bask on it, listening to my playlist and taking the long way home, passing many of my newly discovered favorite places. When I awoke, I was proven right, and even before I could check Instagram, I knew they were no longer in NYC. The air felt different, and I believed my gut. I reached out to all I'd live blogged my adventure to tell them, no, I didn't get to meet Shane and Ryan, but yes, it was so much more than worth it. After all, to me at least, it was less about needing to figure anything out, and more about the fun of coming up with theories and adventuring, much like Unsolved itself. But then, Ryan posted on Insta a picture simply captioned with a ghost emoji and location tagged simply as Manhattan. It looked down a steep hill at the Manhattan skyline, and my brain kicked into overdrive, comparing my many, many photos of the Morris Jamel to that of Ryan's post. There's the post. Why do you not want to work? There's the post. It's not letting me stay put in the put. There's the post. Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't think to take any pictures from the angle his picture seemed to be from, but still, that picture matched my memory. I descended upon social media to tell all my friends, show them the annotated comparison between Ryan's photo and mine, the angle at which the hill sloped, the points in the tips of the fence posts, all compelling evidence, to me at least. I've connected the dots. And so then here's my annotated, so look at this, look at that, look at that. Like, anyways. And although I cannot prove it conclusively and won't be able to until their NYC episode airs, I want so badly for it to be real, for them to go ghost hunting at this place that proved my beliefs are true, and that I'm sincerely the Bugara-blooded believer that I proudly proclaim myself to be. And as a Bugara, I vehemently believe not only that one of my new most beloved places is not only haunted, but the site of their investigation, but also that my cryptid sighting by Washington Square was in fact Ryan, and not only that, but that the Mamma Mia card bedecked in lights and amplified bass was also them, and if not the both of them, then just Shane, so I can say with confidence that I witnessed both Ghoulboys, since they are, after all, a package deal. Then I got it. With that said, though certain evidence has led me to believe I uncovered the Ghoulboys' whereabouts, there is still no concrete conclusion. As such, the case of where in Manhattan the Ghoulboys investigated will, at least for now, remain unsolved. And that's the end.
That really made me want to watch BuzzFeed Unsolved.
I recommend it.
I've heard so much about it.
It's the end, but it's the final season. But I recommend. Yes, sorry.
No, yeah, from you and a couple other people on my timelines, I've seen just like a lot of content, #content about BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Hell yeah.
And I gotta say, just in general, I love to hear people talk about or write about or just make art in conversation with the things they love. I think it really infuses work with a joy that, you know,